welcome to this week's Fixing Football podcast. I'm your host Martin Naylor. This week I'm joined by Scott Naylor and Liam O'Meara, and we finally got onto the subject of Bolton Wanderers. I know we touch on them every week, but at the moment they're flying high at the top of League One, and we thought we'd give them some coverage and find out a little bit more from Liam about what's been going on behind the scenes and a bit more detail about what Ian Evatt's doing on the pitch. So hopefully they can keep that going and stay with us, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you everyone who's been listening. Please continue to like and share and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube specifically. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, but you can find all them links at www.fixingfootballpodcast.com. I don't want to delay it anymore, let's get straight into the episode. Hello boys, how are we doing?
Very well, Martin, how are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Scott, how's it going, pal?
Not so bad at all. Sore face, but otherwise I'm good.
Yeah, just for the non-visual listeners, which is 100% at the moment. Scott had a charity boxing match this weekend. Unfortunately, didn't come out with the dub, but it did really well. Both lads give it all. It was the ultra white collar boxing. If anyone is not aware of that sort of thing, Scott, what did you think of the whole experience though?
It was good. It was you learn a lot about yourself doing stuff like that. Anything where you push yourself quite a lot physically, or push yourself to do something that's a bit daunting or scary. And yeah, it was a good experience. I'm glad I went through with it. Not saying I'm in a rush to do another one, but yeah, it's definitely worth doing. I think it's all for a good cause as well. I think about just over 10 grand was raised for various charities on the evening. So
yeah, it's great that.
I guess they're the real winners in the end. Cancer Research, Mind, Art Foundation, a few others get thrown in the mix. But yeah, from a personal perspective, it was good. Enjoyed the training. The fight was good, fairly even until the last bit, and then yeah, his reach just got the better of me. And no, overall, really positive experience.
Good. Liam, would you ever do that?
No.
Everything
Scott says he learned about himself, I know the questions I will be asked of myself, and I know what my answers will be. So
that's fair enough. Well, let's move on to speaking of being a bit out of reach. Scott, Chelsea didn't make it that far this weekend. It's been up and down in terms of performances, but this one was a pretty poor
one. Yeah, it was the performance that I sort of predicted would be somewhat typical of this Chelsea team this season, in that it would be a massively inconsistent group where some weeks we'll look brilliant and we'll smash a team and we'll look, we'll look really strong and positive, and others we just fall off a cliff. After coming off the Spurs win, which was great, and the City draw, and that performance overall just showed that we can hang with the top teams, but then we come pushing back down to earth. The international break sort of came at a really bad time when we had some momentum, and yeah, and it's a shame just to see a couple of individual, all 4 goals that we conceded. We were never really the case of being outplayed. It was stupid mistakes and really poor man marking, just things that are just all 4 goals were so avoidable, and it didn't help that we conceded 2 in the space of about a minute and a half, and then that's just like it's a big shock to the system. You're like, all of a sudden you're in the game and it's 1-1, and then you're 2 behind within a couple of minutes. And then your captain getting himself sent off, not really very helpful. So yeah, I mean, disappointing, but also not unexpected from this team. I'm expecting very inconsistent performances. I wouldn't be surprised if we go out and pass to Brighton next, and then have a really tricky game against United, or vice versa. So yeah, not unexpected, but really disappointing.
I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned Reece James getting sent off. Is there a discipline problem at Chelsea going on? Because I know we've seen Nicholas Jackson already pick up a suspension this season, and 4 of his yellow cards were for dissent. I think there was another 2 or 3 on Saturday. Also, with Pochettino's already in the stands for being booked. So that's not the best. I mean, people go on about Arteta flapping around on the touchline, but he's yet to serve suspension. I'm sure it will come this season. But like, is there something going on? Is it just a case of a lot of young talent not being disciplined enough, or is it something that stems down from the top?
A little bit of both. I mean, with those inexperienced players, you are going to get some hot heads, and you are going to get, people getting booked for stupid fouls and, like you said, dissent kicking. I think Reece James's first yellow card was for kicking the ball away when it went out for, I think it was a free kick. And so again, stupid yellow card didn't need to happen. This is why you mentioned that. How Pochettino's got a touchline ban before Arteta is beyond me. I don't even really know what that was for. But yeah, it seems bullshit to me. But I do think there is an element that Pochettino does want there's been quite a lot of reports that he wants his team to be more aggressive and wants the team to be a bit Atletico Madrid, Simeone-ish and employ the dark arts, but I don't think we'll do it as successfully as they do. So I think it's a mixture of, I think Poch does want his team to be a bit more aggressive, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that because we have shown over the last season or two that we've been too soft. But I also think it does stem from a bit of inexperience, people losing their heads, and particularly in a game like that where you're on the back foot, it can get frustrating. You're at a horrible stadium to go to away. And even when Chelsea were good, St. James's Park has been a horrible place for us to go. We've never really had a good record there. So even if we were on course for the title, I wouldn't be shocked if we go to St. James's and lose. So I think it's a big mixture of things.
Liam, the one thing I did want to mention to you, and I think it's fair that we have to speak about something that everyone's talking about, and that's that goal this weekend. Alejandro Garnacho.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, of course it was. But before we get onto Garnacho's goal, there was a great goal in the Chelsea game that I don't think anyone's talking about. Scott, how do you think about Raheem Sterling, who seems to have skipped basic kicking football skill straight to advanced kicking football skill and doing the knuckleball straight in the top corner for a free kick?
Yeah, where did that come from?
I don't know why. I saw that on Match of the Day, didn't know about it, and it just happened, and I was like, why is no one? That was the most surprising goal of the weekend, even more than the one we're going to talk about.
I've never seen Sterling take a free kick.
Well, he did one. He took a free kick in Bournemouth when we played Bournemouth at Stamford Bridge, and it came. Oh no, sorry, it was Bournemouth away, I think, and it rattled off the bar and down and just bounced off the line. So clearly got it in his locker to do that. I guess he's played in teams where there's been much better set piece takers than him.
Is he just pulling rank now?
I guess. I mean, the only other person who I know in our squad who is good at set pieces is Nkunku, and he's not featuring. Reece James sometimes takes them, but on the whole, we've not really had a proper dead ball taker probably since Willian left, and then Marcus Alonso after that. Yeah, an unbelievable goal. I agree. I think your assessment may be slightly harsh that he doesn't have basic ball kicking skills. A player who's scored over 100 goals in the league, and this. Maybe that's me. I mean, I rate Raheem Sterling very highly, even while he was at Man City. I've always thought he was class. And I've got even more reasons to think so now he's with us. But I think it's a shame that it just got lost in the fact that we got smashed. It happened. Antonio Rudiger did something similar. He scored an absolute screamer from about 35 yards, and he'd been trying it for years. Yeah. He was trying it for every other game. He'd try one. It'd go wide, it'd go close. And it was like, it was a thing amongst Chelsea fans. It was like, one day, he's going to do this. And we're all going to be there for it, and he did, and it was fucking beautiful. And then we got battered 3-1 anyway. So it was a shame it didn't get remembered for that.
Right, Liam, Garnacho. People are saying it's the new coming, it's the next Rooney. I think people hold the Rooney overhead kick a little bit too high in my estimations, as in terms of like the best goal in the Premier League ever. But it is up there. It's an overhead kick. It's against City. So this one against Everton in the 3rd minute, when Everton were actually down as favourites at the bookies because of everything that's gone on in the previous week, and then in the 3rd minute that happens.
Well, with Rooney's, it's not an overhead kick; it's an overhead shin. So it really doesn't count.
It's even more impressive, in my opinion. Makes it even more impressive.
It was the biggest. It's such a fluke for so many different reasons, that Rooney goal. But enough about that. Let's talk about the Garnacho goal. I don't want to be guilty of recency bias, because obviously when something just happens, you're more likely to favour it. But I'm struggling to think of a better goal in the Premier League than that one.
It's right up there. Honest. It is right up there. The technique's perfect. The position, it looks better because the keeper's dived. Everything. You know, sometimes when the keeper doesn't move at all, I don't know. Aesthetically, there's something about it.
Exactly. It's aesthetically perfect, that goal. It's not on, almost. Like, he has to adjust so much that it would have to be awkward, but it's not. It's glorious. And it won the game straight away because it just sapped all the energy out of the crowd, because they've essentially gone there and witnessed greatness in 2 minutes against them, and it's just kind of just knocked them for six what they've just seen. So yeah, incredible goal.
I did feel a bit sorry for Everton. I'd seen I went to check the score and immediately it was 1-0. I was like, oh Christ, it's not going to go down well, because they had the protest that was going on this weekend. What did you make of that?
I don't think they really protested, to be completely honest.
Well, they had the pink posters and stuff that was going up.
Yeah, like, it wasn't really like, where's the disruption? Where's the if I were being honest, right? If I was an Everton fan and I really felt aggrieved about it, and I personally don't think they've been that harshly punished, if I'm being completely honest, but they seem to have an issue with something that they've admitted to and helped with the investigation of, then been punished for. So they seem to be upset with the harshness of the punishment, right? Even though it's unprecedented, no one's done it before. So theoretically, they are the first ones, and whoever comes after them may be punished equally or more harshly than they are. They don't know that, but they've already decided that the world's against, and whatever, right? They can feel aggrieved all they want. I don't care that much. But in terms of protests, it was nothing, was it? They held up a few cards and booed the Premier League anthem. And then apart from that, it was kind of business as usual, really. Like, I've been to football protests. Like, you've stopped the game. You've become difficult. I don't want to obviously glorify some of the more unsavory things that happen in these sort of situations, but like, there was no disruption whatsoever. I don't know where the actual protest was. I don't know what you thought, Scott.
Yeah, agreed. It was a little bit lackluster. It was more of a gathering of moaning as opposed to an actual protest. There were no. Yeah, it was a little bit. It fell a bit flat. If what they intended was a full-on protest against the Premier League, it certainly didn't. It certainly didn't achieve that. And like you said, I think it didn't help that even if we did plan to kick off during the game or disrupt things during the match, the goal within the first couple of minutes, you just, like I said, it sucked all the life out of it. And that's exactly what Man United needed to do. And yeah, I think after that, Everton fans kind of knew what was, the writing was on the wall. But yeah, on that protest, I think it was.
I think they got it wrong.
Very half-assed.
I think people get it wrong. I think they seem to have this idea that it was like us against the world. But like, if you're going to protest and you're going to be toxic, you've got to be toxic. It's not about getting behind the team. Like, you've got to go full toxic. Like, ruin everything for everyone. Spoil everyone's day out. Like, make it a horrible thing to do. Or don't go. Like, don't just go there and like really kind of do the same thing they always do, which is not like everyone else and cheer Everton. It's the same thing they go and do every week. So, I mean, look, I don't want to like sit and incite a riot or anything like,
That's what I was going to do. I was going to fix Everton's protesting. They need to up their game in terms of protesting. To be honest, mate, I think they were expecting to win, like we spoke about last week, that this news would galvanise them in some way and make the stadium absolutely unplayable. The fact that happens after 3 minutes is just killed everyone's idea. So they probably couldn't have the chance to come up with the idea of a forceful protest, because they were just more expecting to win in terms of their spirits being so buoyed by the punishment.
We've said everything there. We've said everything.
Fair enough. Before we move on to this week's topic, I want to touch on the team at the top of the league. I'm just trying to remember what their name is. Oh, yeah. The mighty Arsenal. Glory, glory, Arsenal. Top of the league. Reigning supreme. Probably where we're going to finish up. Everyone's on board. Everyone's buzzing. Scott, what did you make of that game? Result? Anything? Any notes to add before I keep on chanting?
I didn't actually see the game in and of itself, so I can't comment too much on Arsenal's performance or how the game went, because I didn't get the chance to see it. One thing I did see, which I thought was an embarrassment on Arsenal's part, was the treating of Aaron Ramsdale like a charity case at the end of the game. Everyone sort of crowding over him after it smacks of, and something that didn't get enough stick, which I'll also come to. It smacks of the Havertz. Oh, here's the penalty, Kai. You need a bit of confidence. Here you go. Handed in the penalty like he was again a charity case. And I thought Ramsdale got the same treatment. I think it's a bit patronising. If I'm Aaron Ramsdale, I don't want his pride should that's going to offend me if I'm Aaron Ramsdale, that everyone's coming over treating me like a special,
his
like a special
dad's not
case.
Either, is it? His dad's not helping with that. His dad comes out every week saying
No.
sad he is.
What's happening with this? Ball's getting the parents to speak out. From Harry Maguire's mum came out and defended him as well. What's going on? What's happening to these guys?
Maybe parents just feel the need to protect their child when they know their kid, as much as an adult they are, they're silenced in terms of the media training and stuff like that.
But when your kid's a Premier League footballer, you have to know that is doing way more harm than good. Like, you have to be briefed on all this. I'm not having that. There's nobody at Man United's PR team not giving everyone the debrief of don't embarrass your relatives who play for us and make life hard.
On Aaron Ramsdale, though, did you not think it was weird that press conference with Arteta where he wouldn't say his name? Did you see that?
I saw when the guy asked him, mentioned Aaron Ramsdale's name, his face, he was smiling, and then it just went boom. It was like thunder. So I think that he was forced to play in Ramsdale because obviously Raya couldn't play. And I don't think we'll see Ramsdale in an Arsenal shirt again unless there's an injury or there's some cup rotation. And I think if I'm Aaron Ramsdale after that embarrassment from his teammates, I wouldn't want to be there any longer anyway. And a special mention to Marcus Rashford, who also got a pity penalty.
He didn't want it either, did he?
No, you could see
that
it.
That was the difference with that one. Rashford knew how that looks like.
Yeah.
And he didn't want it, and he didn't want to celebrate it either.
I think he scored it. I mean, he scored it at least.
Penalty.
But it was embarrassing, and I think it made Havertz look an idiot, and it also, when it happened for him, and it also made Ramsdale look like a fool.
Martin, do you think take away your Arsenal allegiance now, where you like to keep hold of players that never play, like Smith Rowe? Taking away the Arsenal allegiance, if you were Aaron Ramsdale, you've got the Euros coming up. Do you want to leave, even if it is a loan?
Yeah, probably. I would be shocked if there's any player who doesn't want to play football. So that's where I stand with that. Aaron Ramsdale is an established Premier League number one. Has proven that, got us to a Champions League spot. So he's well within his rights to think that he deserves to be the number one at a Premier League club, if not one of the big ones, any Premier League club.
Where would he go, Premier
League? You know what? There's a lot of good goalkeepers in the Premier League at the moment. I think he'd get in at Newcastle. I think he could get in at Chelsea.
Absolutely not.
There's not many better goalkeepers I would rate higher. Maybe 4 or 5 as above him. One
thing I'll say about that is I think even if he does leave to get ahead of the Euros, I don't think it really makes any difference anyway. I mean, he should leave Arsenal because it's clear that he's not wanted. But for the Euros, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters what Aaron Ramsdale does or who he's playing for. He ain't going to the Euros. Or if he does go, he ain't starting. Pickford's going to start.
Well, the thing is, if Pickford picks up the injury and there is no Pickford, he is at the moment the number 2.
I would take Nick Pope in that any day of the week over Aaron Ramsdale. He's playing every week. He's playing in a team that's in good form. Just don't say you can make a case for Ramsdale over Nick Pope.
I agree at the moment. But I also take your point, Martin, that if he leaves and he's number 1, I think he'd end up in Italy, personally. On a short term end of season loan, I think he'd end up in Italy, either at Milan or Roma, somewhere like that. But
there's loads of places where Ramsdale can go if he wants to.
Yeah, I just don't think it'd be England, because I don't think he would get to go to a club. Maybe Palace, but I don't think he'd get to go to a club that he believes he's the stature of and go in as number 1.
Maybe not
straight away, because he's not going to go down. And if they say, let's say he goes to Newcastle, you compete with Nick Pope, that's exactly the same situation he's in now. He might as well stay at Arsenal and hope Raya gets injured.
On the Arteta thing, to me, it looks like someone who's fed up with being asked the same question a million times, and every time someone asks him now, he just focuses on the team. He did in the post-match notes on the Arsenal website. He did speak about him personally. That referred back to him and his performance, the character. He had a few shaky moments in the match, so he probably weren't. Arteta probably weren't his biggest fan directly after the match if they were still fresh. But he got a clean sheet and we won. So I do have a problem with people questioning or pulling us up about stuff like where we're trying to show team spirit, and then Liam, you mentioned Emil Smith Rowe about us not us not wanting to let us leave, and I heard Tony Adams saying a similar thing where Arteta needs a settled squad, whereas last season.
I've told you to stop listening to Tony Adams. I told you this long time
Well,
ago.
I was listening to TalkSport and he was on. I know the guy's a freaking fruitcake, but it's just something that keeps coming up now where now Arteta needs a settled squad, he needs a settled team. We had that last season and people said we needed a bigger squad and we needed more rotation. Now we've got a bigger squad and more rotation. People are saying we need to settle down. So I feel like there's no winning at the moment with certain comments that are coming out.
No, I feel like you're resenting the fact that you're being held to scrutiny now. You're not the surprise package anymore. You're the genuine contenders to Man City.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
That comes with that scrutiny, though, doesn't it?
Scrutiny of performances, definitely. Not scrutiny of the way the team's set up or having to rotate players because you have got a big squad available.
Even Pep gets this with things like where's Foden playing and Grealish and Dog. Like it's when you're at the top, you're under that magnifying glass.
Maybe there's worse problems as well.
Don't see how Arteta can have an issue if he is getting sick of being asked the same question. He caused his own problem. He didn't have to go and get another goalkeeper, or he didn't have to. He could have sold Ramsdale if he really didn't fancy him, which I've been telling you for ages that I don't think Ramsdale's that good anyway. But it's a problem he's created. And yes, you need rotation in a top team, but not in goal. You've done it in the wrong place. He's made a rod for his own back, and he's got. I don't think he can have any complaints.
Who's Chelsea's number 2? I don't even know. Who's Chelsea's
number 2? It is a guy called Petrovic, who we signed from the MLS. I don't think he'll ever play. But we got rid of Kepa and we got rid of Mendy. Both. So we needed 2 keepers this window because we got rid of both of our goalkeepers. So we signed Sanchez, who I think was a stopgap to maybe win a really top goalkeeper. I mean, Sanchez is still somewhat young in goalkeeper terms. He could get better, but I don't think he's ever going to be a top level goalkeeper. And I think Petrovic was just signed to be the backup.
Is that Oblak maybe the longer term?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I've always fancied Mike Maignan from AC Milan. I think he's the kind of character that we'd need. I wouldn't mind a Jan Oblak as well. I wouldn't have minded somebody of his stature, someone with that sort of name and that presence coming in, but he's probably on some sort of death row contract at Atletico Madrid that we'll never get him out of. So
$1 billion release clause.
Yeah.
Right. So we've covered the mighty Arsenal at the top of the Premier League. Liam, it's fair that we now move to League One, where good old Bolton Wanderers are flying high. The form team in the country. People are speaking about Man United, thinking they're the form team, but it's not. It's another little town in the northwest.
Biggest town in the country, Martin. But yeah,
the greatest town in the country.
Liam, Bolton Wanderers are top of the league, the form team in the country. Just tell us a little bit about what's going on. They had a big win this weekend. It was 7-0. Is that Exeter?
Yeah, Exeter
at home. Just tell us a little bit about what's going on at the moment, because hopefully it's something special.
Well, the result this weekend was no surprise. We went to that game knowing that we were going to win big, really. We have really hit our straps now. Kind of what I expected us to do, but I expected us to do it earlier. It's taken a little bit of time to click, but it really has clicked now. And we've got strength in depth. We're rotating and we're still really ripping teams apart. This isn't like a case of, grinding out win after win. We are walking through teams at the moment as if they're not there. The goals are a highlight reel, one-touch football every single week. we have been playing some of the weaker teams in the league, but that has given us confidence when we play some of the stronger teams like Blackpool. We're hitting those teams hard as well because of the belief that this easier run has given us, and we've gone top.
Is it a little bit to be expected because you went into the season, I think, second favourites? So is it a case that you've been building this for, maybe two seasons in the background since Evatt came in, and then now is the time when a couple of the other, I don't know, I wouldn't say stronger teams, but maybe bigger clubs in a way have left the league, and it's sort of given Bolton a good run at it?
100%. Something that we said in the summer, that this was the opportunity, but the timing of our development, we've not rushed anything. We've not over-invested. We've essentially built and coached a team, and it's been one or two additions in windows. Not always first-team players being brought in, sometimes players being brought in with a vision that they will become first-team regulars 3-4 months down the line when they're up to speed on the system. And yeah, it's been an evolution really into the team that essentially now is winning games every week in League One. The absence, as you say, of some of the bigger teams like Sheffield Wednesdays, Ipswich's, to a lesser extent Plymouth, but they had a very good year last year, has created this opportunity where I was only really concerned about Derby, who have really underperformed, playing a little bit better now, but I'm not surprised about our position really.
The thing is with like League One is, and the Championship even, is that a late run can really change a lot of things. So I think there's still a lot to play for at the moment. But I did want to ask you about sort of the lead up to this season and everything that Bolton have been putting in place. Obviously, since the new ownership group came in, just for the people who aren't very clued up on Bolton Wanderers, just give us a little bit of brief since they've come in, what they've tried to do and everything that sort of Ian Evatt's been part of as well with that.
Yeah, so it has been a slow build, and a lot of the early focus was purely on the playing side of things. Essentially, when the new owners came in, we were a very poor League One team. We essentially put a mishmash team together that eventually went down, at which point we saw under the manager Keith Hill at that point. And at that point, really, with a clean slate, they sort of had an idea of the kind of team that they wanted to be. At that point, Ian Evatt had turned Barrow into a similar outfit than what we are now. They were obviously aiming for the 100 points before their season was cut short because of COVID in the conference. They were absolutely flying, playing unbelievable football by all accounts. So Bolton backed Ian Evatt. Now, it didn't start particularly well, but essentially they were ripping up a playing style and starting again. Bolton has, not for a long time, been a possession sort of favouring team and a front foot team. It's been a long time, and if I'm honest, it's probably very early memories of watching Bolton since we had a team that did that. My whole sort of Bolton memory really is us of being a sort of a back foot team, a counter-attack or direct team, set piece heavy.
Yeah, I think that's what Bolton are known for, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't always the way. It wasn't always. And a lot of that came from 10 years of Allardyce, and then essentially a culture being brought into Bolton. But so Evatt's had to rip that out, and it's not been easy. And the first year we really struggled. So we were at one point, I think in January, we were 18th in League Two. But then that run came that you talk about, and that was in League Two. And I think I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was an unbelievable sequence of results that essentially saw us go back in that year. And then from there, it's been slow progression. They've made a few changes off the pitch in terms of the recruitment side of things, and also the business side, which has been a real focus of the last 12 months, really.
Attendance has stayed pretty high, which is definitely helping, isn't it?
Yeah, Bolton really benefited from a sort of post-COVID bounce on attendances, and they've stayed really high on the back of it. We're averaging around the 20,000 mark. When you consider the away attendances in League One, it's substantial. It's the same level really that we had in the Premier League in terms of attendances. But it's not a surprise because we're playing good football, we're winning games, and we're on an upward trajectory at a time where people were starved of football with COVID. So it brought new fans to the table that have only really seen things going well. So why not? And the ticket prices are still very competitive at Bolton, particularly for young families. You know, children's season tickets are, I think you can get them as low as 40, 50 quid. So it's very clever. But the last 12 months is when it's really sort of kicked on in terms of investment in the infrastructure and the playing squad. Because what a lot of people don't realise about Bolton, and where Bolton's a little bit different, is despite everything that happened in the last sort of 4 or 5 years and all the reported, is they still own a hell of a lot of their assets. The training ground is old. The stadium is owned. The hotel on the stadium is owned by the club. The car parks around are now part of the club because they were sold off, but they were sold off to a Bolton Wanderers fan who's become part of the ownership group, Michael James. So the infrastructure of the club is all there still. They're not leasing the ground or anything like that. So in terms of Bolton Wanderers, the commodity, there's still hell of a lot of value in it. And this is why the investment in the club is so important.
So I want to move on to on the pitch, and I think the main man most people are aware of now, Dion Charles, is really sort of stepped up into the main man role for Bolton Wanderers. He scored again for Northern Ireland in the week as well against Denmark, got the winner there. Is he someone who you think Bolton may cash in on at some point to help support the off the pitch stuff, or is he someone who you think Bolton needs to double down on for the long term?
I don't know about long term, if I'm being honest. I take a view of see where you are at the end of the season with most players at this level, because for all we know, we could be presented with another option, maybe a loan, where it allows us to maybe cash in on a Dion Charles and look for the next Dion Charles.
Especially if you get like you could get 8-9 million for Dion Charles, and that,
I wouldn't hold my breath for 8-9 million, but your point is valid. Like, we could get an offer that we couldn't refuse. Of course,
you could get an offer that could run the club for a year.
Yeah, but I struggle to see the benefit of doing it in the winter this year. Because he's so vital to how we play. It's not only the goals that he brings, and he does score so many goals. He does score a lot of goals, but he really leads the line in terms of running down defenders and winning the ball. Like, he's one of our best defenders in terms of his tackling ability and essentially how he intercepts the ball and how he reads the game. So he's absolutely vital. I'd be shocked if there's not interest in him. I believe Stoke were sniffing around him in the summer and maybe asked a few questions. And I would be open to offers for him in the summer, promotion or not. I would be. But I don't see the benefit of doing it in the winter, because if we get someone in, we'd have to start again in terms of how we're playing a little bit. We'd have to bring in someone and then adapt the game, because we brought in Adebayo, for example, to accompany him, and he's a very different striker, and there's still not quite a synergy there yet. There's still issues, but we would really harm ourselves if we sold him this winter.
That was going to be one of my questions, is because he's such a big part of the team, and there's almost a big reliance on him to bring so much. So in terms of if something happened, like, so say, for example, I agree. I think waiting or doing something in January makes no sense. If you are going to do some sort of cash in, do it in the summer when you've got a bit more time. If he picked up an injury, for example, what is the depth like in terms of, is it a case of we need to change the entire system because Dion's not available, or is it a case of someone can come in and do it similar but not as well? And how detrimental do you think that would be?
Oh, good question. That's the one. I mean, there are other areas of the pitch I think we could strengthen, but we'll come back to that. But that is the big thing that could, I won't say derail our season, but it would create problems if Dion Charles was out for a significant amount of time. He missed the Wigan game through suspension, and we got pumped 4-0. And it's not a coincidence. Wigan always pump us, but not having Dion Charles is an issue. Now, we do have talent up front, even without Charles. So Yondani Budvarson would come
Your
in.
mate.
My a player I think is unbelievable in terms of his actual technical ability for a League One player is so far and above. You can see he's been an international footballer. But the defensive side of Dion Charles is something we would miss so much. The running the channels, we'd miss so much. The link-up play he does and running beyond him, it would be a massive loss. I'll not pretend that's not the case. The answer is, Scott, we'd probably have to adapt because injuries happen in football, and every team has players that they could do without getting injured. But that would be the one I would really hope didn't get injured.
Let's move it to the future of Bolton. Let's say we get promoted this season. What's next on the cards for Bolton, both on and off the pitch? I mean, the ownership stuff is still sort of in transit in terms of where they want to be as a club and their goals. And then on the pitch, where do you think they need to? We'll put this as our little fixing category, but on the pitch, where would you address first?
Promotion is a tricky one because
the Championships are just a beast, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of talented players in the Championship. It's relentless and it's at such a high level in terms of intensity. And it wasn't the same gap not so long ago between League One and the Championship, but now the top half of the Championship is just full of such strong teams. So that would, I think, be competitive in anything maybe apart from the top 4 leagues in Europe. I think most of the Championship teams would go in. I include the Bundesliga on that, apart from Bayern, I think. But we would probably need to strengthen across, particularly at fullbacks. I like Randall Williams, but maybe we would need improved quality there. Josh Dacres Cogley as well at right back, who has done really, really well. But I would like to see us maybe level up there as well.
But if the financial windfall you'd get from getting into the Championship, do you think that needs to go on the pitch first and get yourself established in the Championship before any of the sort of off the pitch plans come into play?
Yeah, and I think the ownership group recognises that.
Yeah.
I think that's always been what we've done. The investment is now going in the ground because essentially we've built a team that is theoretically capable of promotion. So it's only really now that, I mean, I don't know if you've been recently, but it's a completely different stadium.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's amazing, like the work that they've done there. Considering it's nearly 30 years old, like the work that they've done. And I know it seems mad, but giving it a bit of a wash as well.
It looks like a modern stadium again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's brilliant. And it's important because, if you always want to leave the door open for investment. I'm not saying that the ownership group wants to sell or that they've got plans to split the pot.
Yeah, surely they're open to it, though.
Yeah, of course. Surely if you've got the ambition to go on. And this comes back to what we were talking about with the clubs that are in the Premier League now. It's about healthy ambition. You don't want to just essentially survive. There's no point in that. I want the owners to think that they can take us from the League Two to the top end of the Championship and beyond, and then sell us for a profit. Because that wins for everyone. That's what it's about. That's how it should work. That's what's happened with Bournemouth, and they're a Premier League club now. It's what happened with Wolves, and it's what happened with Villa to an extent.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want. Like, we want the club to want to earn money, the owners to earn money and sell. I don't love football owners. I'm not someone who fawns over the ownership groups or anything like that. I don't like people with money. That's just my nature. I've got a chip on my shoulder. That's just who I am. But
until we get some.
Until we get some, and obviously this will happily be the Fixing Saudi Arabia Football podcast. We will
sponsored by PIF.
Yeah,
live from Riyadh.
Yeah, exactly. Still open. But it has to be that way. We have to want to invest in the infrastructure and on the pitch. But on the pitch is really important, first of all, if we went up. Because otherwise we're just kidding ourselves. We'll do a Wigan and a Rotherham and just never hold up there.
Do you think? Let's say, because I think we all think Bolton are going up, and I think most of us said that Bolton would win the league. With that on-pitch investment, do you think Bolton are one of the more attractive prospects should they come up? Because that will be Bolton the name, Bolton the club is a big club. But also then you go into a team who's just come up. Maybe is it the safest place for people to go? I like to think that they would be. Yeah, from your top targets, for example. I like to think that you would be, but yeah, curious to see what you think on that.
That's a very good question. And I think Northwest potentially. I think around this part of the world, yeah, probably. Like, I think Preston's not a terrible place to play. I think they've got a good manager, and you've got some nice parts of the world to live in around there. I think your mum lives around there, doesn't she? Nice around there. But yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Maybe not necessarily against some of the big hitters that are in the league. Your Sunderlands, your Norwiches, Ipswich now, like proximity to London and all that. I don't know is the honest answer, Scott. I'd like to think so for teams that are players that are maybe northern based, but that's something that we've benefited a hell of a lot from in the last sort of couple of years at League One, League Two, and I don't think we'll be as strong in the Championship, to be completely honest.
Fair enough. You'd like to think you're a nicer place to live than Sunderland, though.
True. I would, but as they like to remind everyone, they get 9 million fans a game, and it's the only club to play for in the world. So
England played there twice, so they must be big.
Yeah, and their fans really care about football, but no other fans do as well.
So, Liam, I'm going to give the floor to you for this last little section. You have been given the keys to the famous trotters, and you get the chance to start fixing something. Where'd you start?
Oh, I'd give myself a box straight away.
Yeah, that's nice. Bit of heating, so it can be a bit breezy in that stadium.
Hard work, yeah. Where would I start straight away?
It can be on or off the pitch.
It'd be both. The first thing I would do is I would look to maybe bring in another right back, maybe on loan. I'd love to see Conor Bradley come back from Liverpool. I know he's been injured, so he's.
Oh, has he? Because I thought he was going there to get in the squad, but I haven't seen him, so
he's been injured right? Towards the end of the summer, yeah. So it's sort of stalled in development. Very good player. So now he probably will get Championship offers, but I think there's a lot of benefit for Liverpool for putting him in a team that's winning every week and used to being the pressure of delivering a trophy. I think
somewhere he's been before. Somewhere he's already been.
Exactly. It's local as well. So he's got other Northern Ireland international teammates in the team as well. So I think that would be what I would try and do. In terms of off the pitch, something we've talked about in the past on a previous podcast, but it's the one thing that really, really doesn't sit well with me at Bolton is the fact that you can't bet in the stadium. The promotion of a bet-free zone is not...
Oh, right. Was that taken away? Because they used to have the stalls, didn't they, in the concourse?
No betting on the stadium and no advertising of betting that isn't sort of league affiliation, if you know what I mean, that they can't do anything about.
Oh, okay.
Which, don't get me wrong, I know there's well intentions there, but at the same time, we're not stopping selling booze. We're not stopping anything else. And putting a bet on is a big part of my match day experience. Something I always did. I enjoy it.
Well, it's a big part of a lot of people's. You see it, it's just everywhere. The betting companies and their promotions and stuff. So why take it away from inside the stadium?
Look, they may have the reasons for doing it.
I'm sure it's great optics to say that that's what they're doing about it. But
and I understand that there is issues with problem gambling and football. I understand that, but they make up what we talked about in our previous podcast.
Yep.
Like, collective punishment is not the way forward. And that's one thing that, and it might be a small thing to some people, but for me, it does bother me. I would like that option. I can obviously bet on my phone, but sometimes I enjoyed the part of betting in the ground, queuing up, putting my...
Having your slip.
Yeah. It was part of the experience for me, and unfortunately that's lost. So they're the two things I'd change.
Fair enough. Before we go, I wanted to ask you about safe standing at the Tough Sheet Stadium. Is that something you'd like to see come in?
I can't see why not, to be completely honest. It looks like it's been a relative success.
Yeah, it looks like it's working everywhere. I mean, do you think that's something, because they have the little crazy section, the
those little mad lads.
they're hard them.
Yeah, I'd do it north lower behind the goal personally if I was going to do it anywhere. Straight behind that goal there. That's probably where I would do it. And yeah, I can't see why not. I feel like it'd look good. I mean, I watch a lot of Celtic, and it's been an absolutely massive hit there.
Is it? I didn't know they had that there, right?
Yeah, so the Greenberg, well, they're not only to go at the moment, but that's what they would normally say. Well, stand, sorry. But yeah, possibly. I haven't really thought about it that much, to be honest, until you asked then. But
I honestly thought it'd be something that Bolton fans would be well up for.
I don't know why anyone would want it. I don't want to stand all game.
Most people do. They're annoyed at being told to sit down.
I'd be the opposite.
What I like about it, I mean, obviously, I understand why it wasn't there, but football grounds are different now, and I say that as a Bolton fan, that obviously Bolton has had its own horrific incident with regards to football stadium. Yeah. So it's not something that I think came lightly, but they are a lot more safe places now, football grounds. They are.
Yeah.
So I think it's safer to give people the choice. I've been to away games where people want to sit, want to stand, and it creates a problem. People don't get to see the game. And I think if you can put people in a standing spot where they've got an allocated spot and that's police, then yeah, absolutely. I think well, there's not been any issues with it as far as I'm concerned. I've heard or seen. I think it's been a success everywhere, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've definitely not heard any major issues about it. So I think
we'd have heard. We'd have heard. Definitely heard so much about it.
I wouldn't do it in the upper tier.
No. Gets a bit steep and breezy up there. It's a bit rough. Right, I think we'll leave that there. Thanks very much, lads.
No worries.
Thank you. So just to round up, Bolton are going up. Kai Havertz is the top striker in the league, and Garnacho scored a half-decent overhead kick this week.
That he didn't shin?
That he didn't shin. So that's straight off the laces. Scott, Kai Havertz, agree? Yeah?
No. Never. Shy.
Right. Cheers, guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You know where to find us. It's www.fixingfootballpodcast.com. You can catch all our information there. You can catch up with everyone on Twitter, on Instagram. Please catch us on TikTok, where they'll be finding some clips, and they're on Instagram Reels as well. But yeah, please do like and share and subscribe and follow and all that lovely stuff. Thank you very much, everyone, and boys, I will catch you soon.
See you in a bit, mate.